really sure where to start with today because even just the last 24 hours in general, I just have gotten myself so confused about things and can't even make a decision to save my life right now about things. And I can't even talk about this. It's one of those things where I kind of need an outside opinion about it, but at the same time, this decision needs to be mine and not based on others' opinions and everything. So I don't know even how I feel about it at all on my own, because I see both decisions seem right, and I just don't even know. It's just difficult. I'm just gonna stop talking, even just discussing this at all at this point now, because I feel like the more I sit there and like try and figure out what to do about this, like the more that I seem to turn people away from me, and I don't want that, because it shouldn't be like that. And I don't know. What I will say is about it is the fact that it's hard for me to explain to certain people the way I have to, because the main thing for me is just that the fact that I technically have to decide about not being about whether or not I am friends with a certain person anymore, and I've never been put in that situation where I've even had to think about ending a friendship or anything like that, and it goes against everything for me, because it's hard talking about this also because people are here and it's midnight and I don't particularly feel like having my sister or my parents overhear me when I'm talking about this. But the thing is that for as long as I can remember, I am that person that is kind of outside the group. Like, even if I'm part of a group, I still manage to feel outside the group, because like even every time the stories or movies or shows or anything, even the unpopular like people, or like just the people left on the outside and everything, they are always pictured with like at least one really close friend that they have, that they talk to all the time, and they're always just able to be themselves with, and that's their kind of escape from being left out in most situations and everything. And for me, like, sure, I have really like I have my best friend and everything, but I never had that whole thing where you hung out all the time, or you always go and stay the night at each other's house, or you always visit each other and everything. I never had that. I never have had friends that came over and visited me. I've never had that. If it was me hanging out with my friends, it was me hanging out with them, not them ever hanging out with me, really. It was like, if I was ever if it was ever me and my friend hanging out together, like at a house, it was always their house, pretty much always. Like, sure, there was a couple of times where we've hung out at my house and everything, but it's because of, it's like one of those things where we would be hanging out somewhere and more than likely at their house, and for some reason we would have had to come here or whatever, that type of thing. It has never been that, you know, a friend just randomly drops by or something like that type of thing. I've never really even had like people, like friends or whatever, call me at my house or just to talk or whatever. I never really had that. Like, I've had a couple of times maybe over the years or about that. Like maybe once every year or two that'll happen. That's how rare it is for me. So, and like every time I've been somewhere, like specifically, like for example, like for church and everything, I'm always felt left out because just even in general, not speaking like just social groups wise, but no matter where I've lived, I've always been the one person who doesn't fit in with everyone else because like when I was living in Woodstock and everything, I was in that ward and everything. I need to turn off the fan.
But what if that's the only thing covering up them hearing my voice?
I was the only one that actually lived in Woodstock. Like the way my church is set up, you go to church with people who live in your area, like near you. Supposedly, that's how it works. But even when I was in Woodstock, and we were in Woodstock ward, everyone else didn't actually live like in Woodstock. They lived like here in the city I am now, or like very near to it or something, and they would go to like different schools and everything. I went to Woodstock Elementary and Woodstock Middle School and all that, but they didn't go to those schools. I was the only one who went to that school besides like my brother. And even when we moved here, like almost every single person went to Walton instead of Pope. And it was only like there was when I first started going to Pope, there was I think 2 other people that went to Pope, but they were at least 2 years older than me, and I didn't actually find out about this really until just before they graduated, and I was barely able to even never see them or anything because they were like 2 grades above me, and I didn't ever really get the chance to talk to them or anything because they were a little bit older and in a different age group or whatever. So I barely even got a chance to try and start to socialize with them before they left. Now, like the last 2 years I was in school, I was the only one there except for like my brother, because the way we live is like right on the line, the border for everyone. So everyone that goes to our school is everyone in our ward, that's like the people we meet with every week. And then there's several different wards, like 3 or 4 that are in a stake. And then we're right on the line for our ward and our stake, like literally the end of the street of my neighborhood. You're in a different stake, and it happens to be the stake that Woodstock is for. So everyone that goes to Pope is in that other stake as opposed to ours. So I never really knew who anyone was there or anything, and none of them go. And like I was only ever kind of friends with one person who was in that other stake because I figured out one day that they were there, and they were in my French class like the last year, so I was kind of friends with them. We didn't really get the chance to talk much or anything, but it's like disregarding like just everywhere I've kind of been like feeling like the outside person because of various things like that. There is like that, and then there's like my birthday is like always during the second week of school or whatever, so I'm so much younger than everyone else in my grade and everything and all that. And because I never really had friends that tried to sit there and contact me, it was always me like reaching out to them and everything. So in the last several years and everything, like it made me really upset a lot, like deep down. Like usually I'm a pretty happy person, people understand that and everything, but like underneath and all everything, I get kind of like upset about it a lot and everything, because it really does suck to be that person that, you know, doesn't really belong in a group and everything and all that, and the person that, like, I wish sometimes that more often than it does that people would actually reach out to me for once instead of it always being the other way around. In the past couple of years, I made it like, I've always kind of done it kind of subconsciously, because I'm not sure how exactly to word this, but a lot of people are like, I want to change the world and everything, like stuff like that. And for the longest time, I guess I was kind of doing this subconsciously, but in the past couple of years, I've made it a genuine point to sit there and I know how it feels to be that person that isn't reached out to and everything, and I wish that I don't want other people to feel that way, because I know how bad it feels. So I wish that everyone had someone, that at least one person that reached out to them and everything. So I've sat there and I've made the decision that because I wish everyone had at least one person, I'm not going to sit there and make other people sit there and wait for someone. It's someone having to sit there and wait for someone and to be that person when I know I can be that person. So it's hard to explain. But if anyone's going to feel left out, basically if anyone's going to feel left out or something, or not part of the group, I don't want it to ever be because of me. I want to make sure that I do the best that I can to make sure people feel included and everything, and all of that. Like they are being reached out to, and if they still manage to feel like they're left out or anything, I don't ever want it to be because I didn't try. So this whole deal with like having to decide about not being friends with this one person anymore, it is difficult for me because it goes against that whole mindset I have for my life. It's really hard for me right now. And I've been trying to explain this to people that I've been trying to explain this situation with, and like trying to discuss, like trying to get opinions on like what I should do about this and everything, and trying to get them to understand how it is for me, because it is hard, because anyone who knows me, like, I'm pretty sure, like, if you, I'd like to hope that people notice that, especially at church, for example, again, the whole church thing, like, every time I'm there, like, when I see the other people that are there, like, the other girls in the youth group and everything, every time I see them, I go up to them, and I say hi to them, and I'm always enthusiastic and everything, and I give them a huge hug and everything, and I talk with them about how things have been and everything, and I make sure I always sit there and I try and show them that I'm so glad that they are there and everything, because I am, and I want to make sure that that they know that people appreciate them and everything, and that I specifically do. It's not like I'm just putting up a front or everything. I genuinely care about all this and everything. It's not that I'm just doing it just because. No, I'm not sitting there and trying to be fake about saying how showing that they're included and everything. I'm not faking that. I genuinely care about them and care that they feel included in everything. And they are genuinely my friends and everything. So, like, every time I'll always sit there and I'll greet them and I'll run up to them and I will give them a huge hug and everything every time I see them now. And like, even the girls that are there now, like, because I'm no longer in that youth group, technically in the youth group and everything, because I'm over 18 and all that. Whenever I see those girls still, I'll greet them and everything, and like, the past month or so, there was this new family that moved in, and this girl, Heaven, and I saw her once in passing, and I was like, I remember mentioning, I was like, oh, I don't think I know who you are, because I was greeting Audrey and everything, I hadn't seen her in a while or whatever, and just because she was there and everything, and I saw her with Audrey, and I was like, oh, I don't know who you are and everything, and I was asking her, like, who she was and everything, and I was joking around with her and all that, and, the next week when I saw her and everything, I greeted her like I'd known her forever, just like Audrey and everything, and I'm glad to know that, like, I like to hope that she knows that I consider her my friend now, because I genuinely do. Like, I've talked to her now, and I've gotten to know her a little bit, and I remember a couple weeks ago I went up to her and I came up to her when she was with her mom and her sister, because they were talking with my stepdad, and when I went up to them and everything, I was talking, and I managed to bring up, like, the fact that I'd already met Heaven and everything, and I remember afterwards I was upset with myself. I was like, I wish when her mom had said there, like, oh, you guys already know each other, I remember wishing I had been like, oh yeah, we go back forever, and all that, like, jokingly and everything, because I genuinely considered her as a good friend already, and, like, I ended up going up and saying hi to, like, going out of my way to go up to her and say hi to her and give her a hug, like, 3 or 4 times in that one day. And I remember the last time, just before she was leaving, I saw that they were getting ready to leave, so I, like, ran up to her while she was at her car getting ready to leave, and I said hi to her again while her parents were talking with someone just before they left. And I remember we came up to her and I asked her how old she was, and she was like, oh, I'm 13 and everything, and she asked how old I was, and I told her how I was 19, and she was surprised. She thought I was only 16, and I remember thinking, I was like, I'm glad that, like, and maybe this isn't the way that other people would see it, but in my point of view, I like it that I try and make it seem like I'm on the same level as them, I guess. I'm trying to close the age gap a bit and everything, because I always had a bit of an age gap with people. Like, I'm usually around because of my birthday and all that, and feeling younger and everything and stuff like that. And I usually spend a lot of, since I didn't usually hang out with friends and everything, I spend a lot of time with, like, my family and my older sister and everything, and they're, like, at least 5 years older than me, all of them, so I'm used to hanging out with people who have, like, a bit of an age gap and everything, so I wish that sometimes it was hard, and like I said before about how there was, like, an age gap with the girls at my school who were at my church, and made it difficult, is because sometimes the age gaps would be difficult if, like, sometimes I would feel odd about, like, going up to them initially because of age gaps or whatever, but I want to make it for those girls that I go and see all the time. I don't want them to feel, like, intimidated by me just because I'm older than them or whatever, or because there's an age gap between us. I want them to realize that I'll be their friend no matter what and everything, and just this whole thing is just, that's just my general view on things. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while, actually, because I don't think enough people realize that that's what it is. And I know I'll be more comfortable talking about, like, the way I feel, like, because even though I make all this effort, I mean, it's hard for me to feel included myself, and I do all this effort to try and make sure that other people don't feel this way, or at least try my best to try my best to not let them ever feel that way. And maybe by talking about it like this, people will understand more about how I feel and everything, and they'll be able to see more of like why I am the way I am and everything and all that. Maybe they'll understand more about why it is so difficult for me right now and why it's hard for me to sit there and make an effort to put forth, like, to talk to people about. I don't even know how to say this, but maybe they'll understand why it's hard for me to make more of an effort in fixing this whole situation that's been going on, because it is such a huge issue for me, because I don't know what to do anymore, and it goes against everything that I try to do. And at the same time, I can see how maybe their view on it and everything is the right thing, and it probably and may very well be the right thing and everything, but it's hard for me right now to choose, because just everything, and I feel like I'm just repeating everything over and over, but I can't stress how hard it is and how important this whole thing is to me, so I'm just really here I was thinking I'm not going to talk about this anymore, and yet here I am. I'm really struggling right now to figure out what to do. And I just hope that I don't sit there and end up making people think that I don't mean the things that I say or whatever to them. Like, when I'm trying to discuss this with them, saying I'm trying not to talk to whoever anymore or anything. And I just hope that I don't end up losing friends that I've made. And I don't even know what else to say about this. It's just really hard and really confusing and really just a huge issue right now. And I should really just stop talking about this before I really start just crying and being a complete mess about it. But this is a really big thing that I've been trying to figure out in the past day. So I needed to put it out there and talk about it.